what is this tool and what's it used for?
Welcome to Making Stuff with Chris Dayhut and our featured segment titled This Maker's Tools. For today's video, we're going to take a look at work holding devices and very specific type of work holding devices. If you've been at all involved with electronics, you may have had to solder components together. And if you don't have a way to hold that circuit board, you're going to be fighting a problem constantly. And that's what this video is going to be about. I will say that the format's going to be a little different than I normally do because I really can't find history on this and some other attributes that I normally discuss, like how you use it. So the format will be a little different than other videos in this series, but let's just cover some of the primary basics about these devices. The name of this tool is generally referred to as a circuit board holder, or it may be also called a circuit board vise. So there's some variations in the naming of it, but I have found a very frequent amount of use of circuit board holder. The tool, the circuit board holder, is used when working on electronic circuit boards. It is very helpful to have something to hold the circuit board in a position for you to work comfortably. Soldering, especially in electronics, requires very precise control over the components and the soldering iron, and these devices help greatly. So if you're into that or you're thinking about it, pay very close attention to this story. Who might be a potential candidate for this type of tool? It really kind of follows the trade. So it would be electronics technicians, engineers, electronics service people, and of course, hobbyists who work with electronics. So pretty much if you're going to work with a circuit board, this is right up your alley. The cost of these, we'll cover that as I go through and show you each of the different varieties of devices that I have. And I think I've got 12 or 13 of these to show you. So we'll include prices where I can show you along the way with that. But before we get into that part of it, you may be looking at it and go, well, all it's got to do is hold a circuit board. It can't be that complicated of an issue. Well, until you get into soldering a lot of components on a circuit board, you won't appreciate these features or attributes that I'm going to point out. Now, normally I would also say what features are beneficial, but in the case of this, it's not more about features as it is about attributes, because they all have similar features, but the attributes of those features or of the holder itself plays a little bit more important role. Most importantly, in my mind, it's got to have a stable base. If it doesn't, it's not holding anything where you need it to be. And I'll have good demonstrations of that coming up. Some of these devices have jaws, the thing that's actually going to hold your circuit board. And having grooves in them really helps to allow you to register the circuit board to sit in the jaw in a very specific and secure place. You'll see examples of that in some of these. Clamps the circuit board securely. That is probably one of my biggest peeves about a lot of these devices. They're cute, clever, and well engineered, but they don't hold the circuit board securely. It'll often pop out while you're soldering. That's a really bad feature or attribute. Tilt and swivel capability can be very helpful, but in order to utilize that feature, it is highly dependent upon the base, the stable base that's supporting this work holding device. So it's a great feature, but it has to have another feature to be of any use, or it just tips over while you're working with it. And another one is heat resistant. You're going to be doing most likely soldering or maybe even some hot air work with surface mount components. That's going to generate a lot of heat. And if your device holding the circuit board can melt, trust me, it will melt and you've got a bigger problem to deal with. At this point, I'm going to walk you through a lot of the different devices that I have, and I'll show you how they work, so to speak, and what's good or bad about them. The very first one that a lot of people buy is a cool little thing called Helping Hands, and they're kind of cute. They work pretty good, but this is missing one of the key attributes. It does not have a stable base. The alligator clips hold the board, but not very securely. Furthermore, if you're working with electrical wires, the alligator clips, or in some parts of the world, crocodile clips, will actually cut into the insulation of the conductors and create potential areas for shorting. I started out using these many years ago, and I still keep them around for purposes other than circuit board work. To give you an idea on pricing, I found this example on Amazon, and I really had a chuckle because they're showing a price of $15.40. And I have seen them much cheaper, like here they're saying $8.61 from another reseller. But I'll show you another version of this. This one's much more elaborate. And based on the fact that the soldering iron cleaning sponge has never been out of the plastic, it's never been used. Actually, I've got rust on it. I've had it so long, this clip is rusting. It was a cool idea when I bought it, but I mean, seriously, by the time you get your magnifying glass lined up and try to get your circuit board in a place where you can actually work on it, everything's in your way, and it became truly useless. I do like the idea that it had the magnifying glass. It just wasn't a well-engineered device. It's a bunch of things put together to give it a lot of features that didn't function very well at all. Now let's take a look at this. Now remember, this one's $15.40, the last one we looked at. Here's one, this type of device. It doesn't have the solder sponge tray down below, and it doesn't have the soldering iron holder, but it was only $7.99. So these things do run an interesting price range. While looking around either on Amazon or it could be AliExpress, I saw this vise, and the picture made it look a lot better than it really is. It's all die cast. Even the lead screw, I think, is die cast. It's just terrible. Usually it binds up. It's all lubricated right now with lithium grease, etc. But it really didn't work well. It had extra things where it had posts you could put in here to clamp things. It does have the grooves, as you would hope, here and here. But the construction of it and quality of it is so pathetic. I probably used it a few times. I would have thrown it away, but I thought, well, in a pinch, it might be handy for something, or my grandson might want it. This next one was really intriguing when I saw it. Very simple in design, and I could see that these little jaws were could get into very close proximity of each other. And it had some interesting adjustability. Not that it works all that well, but it does give you some adjustment. And if I get it to stay together here long enough, you can do a 3-point support, which is often good in holding things, and just use a spring-loaded device clamp here to get boards in and out very quickly, very easily. And I do a lot of situations or a lot of projects where I need to make multiple boards, such as the Zoomtown experiment. Everything I make, I got to make approximately 16 to 20 of each device. So having a very simple device like this to work quickly is a good thing. Now I will say this device, you'll notice I can push down on the circuit board and it will not pop out. However, side forces, it gets a little bit more tricky, but that's not too common in soldering. All around, I gotta say, for the price, I got one here I found on Amazon, pretty much the identical unit without the paint on it. It was $9.99, and I'll bet it was actually less than that when I bought it off of AliExpress. This is another vacuum vise. It can be clamped onto a variety of surfaces. Sometimes they hold, sometimes they don't. It's typical of a vacuum vise. It swivels, which is, like I was mentioning, a very nice feature. But if you don't have the ability to hold it with vacuum, it can easily flop over in that orientation, thus rendering that capability fairly useless. Now, of course, you can align it up this way, and it is a little more stable, at least in the direction you would think it should be. It came with rubber pads for the jaws, but it did have the nice feature of having V-grooves in the jaws, both vertical and horizontal. You can kind of tell by the condition it's in. I never used it. On this particular workbench, I've got a silicone pad on here so that when I'm soldering and so forth, I don't burn the surface, etc. Plus, I work with the hot air gun on this and some other hot or high temperature practices, so I couldn't use it for that. It's really not that bad of a vise. It's just the wrong application for me. This next vise is rather cute. I used it actually in a lot of videos for the Raspberry Pi Pico series that I filmed in the previous years. And it works really well. It, even though it didn't have grooves on both, horizontal grooves on both jaws, it would hold a circuit board fairly securely. I could tighten this up, it would hold it nicely. It did have a vertical groove on the fixed jaw. I'll try to get that. It's really hard to see, but hopefully you can see that there. And what you're probably noticing is, see that? And that? That's from soldering a component and getting it a little bit too hot. This is a 3D printed vise. I found it on Thingiverse, printed it, and it worked really well. And so I kept using it, but then eventually it got kind of bad on the jaws. But it did remind me of a vise that I used as a machinist many years back. It would be more in the form of like a inexpensive toolmaker's vise. Well, out antiquing one time, I found one. These run, let's see, I got it up here on Amazon right now. This particular vise, which is what we see here on the Amazon ad, it's 1.5 inches, that's the width of the jaws. It's $113.99. I picked this up at an antique store for about $30. So I'm really happy with it. I have been using this quite a bit, but as you can tell, its size is somewhat limited in what it can work with. But I did buy it specifically for working with very small circuit boards. Larger circuit boards, you've got a lot more flexibility in holding them and so forth. So this is one of my prized possessions for circuit board holding and working. One of my more recent, and I would say within the last 5 to 10 years, I purchased this one. When I saw it, I thought, that's a very clever design. You can adjust these legs across the wide range, it allows you to rotate the circuit board. You can lock the rotation with this thumb screw, sort of. It has grooves on the jaws, which will be, there we go, you can see that pretty good there, I hope. So it does give you a nice variety of ways to secure the circuit board. And I can push down on it when I'm soldering. Other than when you get to the end, it pivots. And that screw is as tight as I can make it. So overall, the design of this one was pretty good. It's highly flexible. The jaw holds the circuit board really well. But where it's probably best is in long, narrow circuit boards. The bigger the circuit board, you get something like this in there. And if you're soldering out here, it's just going to drop and spin out of your way. So that kind of became a bummer with it. There was another problem that I discovered when using it. If you're making some circuit boards, you will have components right along the edge. And you will not get very much support. In this case, we're just making it. I can't get past that, but you start to get the idea of where these jaws kind of fail. Overall, for Amazon sells it for $14.09. That ain't a bad price for this, but there are superior solutions. This particular unit is technically called a circuit board holder. It's made by one of the leading manufacturers of these types of devices, PanaVise. I will provide a link in the description below so that you can look at their huge selection and very clever work holding devices. This particular model can open up, hold a very wide circuit board, and sometimes these can be a little tricky. So you got a lot of width and a lot of depth. And this is getting into more industrial sized circuit boards. Not a lot of hobbyists play in that world, but me being a hobbyist, I was working in that range. Now, for some reason, that's really stiff. I don't use this one much, but you can adjust this up and down to get it at the height you want to be comfortable to work with. The other thing that's really nice with it is if I pull out on that, and that's what I was trying to do. I gotta, bear with me a minute. Okay, I think that'll work for our demonstration. If you pull out on this, you can rotate it 90 degrees and about 45 and then horizontal. That's really handy. You can also angle it down or angle it up. It's fairly secure, but if you get out into this area with it, notice the stability issue. It is designed with two threaded holes here, which you would then screw from the bottom through a larger base plate. This particular unit is $120.99 list price, which is pretty expensive. It's got a lot of moving parts and it's pretty well designed, but to me, the stability of it is a little bit disappointing. It also has this very fast feature that I like, where you can clamp and unclamp the circuit board with this lever, and you'll see the jaw moving in and out. The jaws have a V-groove in them, so we can hold the circuit board very easily. And we will just get that moved over. Hopefully I can get into range. Lock it there. And now the circuit board is in there. Now you'll notice that it's kind of, everything's as it should be, but it's kind of wobbly, and that kind of bothers me a little bit. But I have used this a lot and it works really well. And I don't have a lot of complaints about it, but it is very large for my workbench. So I only pull it out when working on very large circuit boards. This is the PanaVise Junior. It does swivel. You can rotate it and do all that. The base is horribly unstable, but it is designed to be attached to something. And if your electronics area is like mine, you really can't afford the space to screw this onto your workbench. There's just not enough room. My workbench is only about 1.25 meters wide, 40 inches, 45 inches, 48, somewhere in there. So that's kind of a disappointment, but it does work. Should you mount it on something, it would be secure. But it does have the same kind of jaws on it. They're V-grooved. Hopefully the camera can see that. Right there, you see the V-groove. The circuit board fits into that nicely. So we will slide that in like so, and I'll release the lever. And now it's pretty securely held in there. I will say these particular jaws did not work very well for small circuit boards if you're clamping out here or way back there. You do have to stay more into the center. But again, if it's mounted properly, it will serve you very well. This one, I believe the pricing was $43.99. So all around, very good hobbyist size. This next one is my latest acquisition. You'll notice right away the one main feature that I complain about a lot. I need a stable base. This thing is insanely stable, so I can be as heavy-handed as I want while soldering, and it's going to serve me very well. It's got adjustability. I loosen this, I can spin it, tilt it, rotate it, do all the things that I want. It's got a tremendous working range. Now, if I open that all the way up, I can get a board in there that size. And then if I want even more room, I can take these screws out, turn the jaw 180 degrees, screw it back down, and gain that much more clamping capacity. But what is really, there were two main selling features to me on this particular vise. Once I get this back in, you'll understand. Notice that it's using rubber pads on the jaws. It doesn't have the grooves like I normally want. It has them in the vertical orientation, but not horizontal. But it clamps very securely, very securely. I love that feature. I can adjust the clamping force by turning the handle. The stability of it has been excellent so far. I've only used it a couple times and I really, really like it. So this one kind of fits my wish list of everything I want in a circuit board holder. They don't technically refer to this one as a circuit board holder. They refer to it as a multi-purpose work center. Well, I know I covered a lot of information on this, and hopefully you found it very informative and useful. Hopefully it will help save you money on your next electronic circuit board work holding device. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions, drop them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and like this type of content, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. All those things greatly help grow the channel so that we can do more and more of these videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.